It's almost Thanksgiving, meaning Rivalry Week is here. And hopefully for you, that's strictly about football. How much I enjoy the family gathering all depends on how much family is gathering. Anyway, let's get you up to speed on the storylines from the best week in college football. Rivalry Week is like a microcosm of family interactions. You got those in-state rivalries where the better you know somebody, the easier it is for you to hate them. Then we got the out-of-state rivalries, the in-laws of this whole thing. TCU versus Texas. The Longhorns are having a hex rally before the game, like they used to do before playing Texas A&M. For a game against TCU. They acted like TCU didn't exist as recently as last year. Now they talking about a hex rally? It's very unbecoming, Texas fans. Go on and admit it. You miss the Aggies, don't you? Texas A&M is in the top 10. They ain't thinking about Texas for a second. Texas ain't close enough for them to think about. How far back they gotta look to see Texas? They're like, sitting here in the top 10. You guys make out any orange back there? Can't make out any orange. Oregon versus Oregon State. Speaking of Texas, they can't call Texas-Oklahoma the Red River Shootout because the name implies violence. I can't have the Red River Shootout? Hey, guess what? I'm from Texas. We shoot people. Anyway, who's ready for the Civil War? Well, the one that won't end with 620,000 dead soldiers. Get over it. They ain't fighting no civil wars. We do shoot people. This is real life. They out here make-believe it. The Civil War? What side did y'all fight on? The Civil War, too much. We need a new name. So what can the bowl be in Oregon? I don't know what kind of bowl, but I figure it will be made out of glass, porcelain, or Pyrex. Notre Dame against USC. The dilemma for most fans, do you root against Notre Dame or Lane Kiffin? It's Notre Dame, which so many people hate, Lane Kiffin, whom from what I can tell, everybody hates. There's a problem with Lane Kiffin getting fired. We don't get to laugh at Lane Kiffin if he gets fired. Like if Lane Kiffin's unemployed, what's the joke? We need him constantly giving us new material. Auburn versus Alabama, where maybe, just maybe, Gene Chizik will be fired at halftime. LSU versus Arkansas. One coach is good to go for broke. That's the whole thing, man. That's the whole thing with Les Miles. You know what I call Les Miles CFI. Coach, fuck it. Because everything Les Miles does seems like in the end it just has a it thrown onto it. It's like 4th and 5. Maybe we should fake punt. Coach, you know what? Fuck it. Time to run the fake punt. 4th and 2. Yeah, we're gonna go for it. But coach, if we don't, fuck it. We're going. Like by the time anybody has any chance to come up with reason or thoughts why we shouldn't do this, fuck it. We'll go. That's the whole thing. The other isn't good, but broke. Well. But as we talked about, you imagine how quick John L. Smith picked up that telephone call when they called him. I mean, he didn't have any money. I ain't trying to make no joke about it, but can you imagine being bankrupt and somebody called you and offered you a 10-month job for $800,000? Where do I sign? Where do I sign? He's like, don't call my agent. Let's keep this between us. There's no need to involve anybody that wants a percentage. Or the personal favorite, hey, is there any chance that you guys could pay me cash? Florida versus Florida State. Once upon a time, this rivalry featured two of the most entertaining coaches in America, Spurrier, Bowden. Don't you remember when coaches were fun? That was the best back and forth. Spurrier went to Free Shoes University and Bobby Bowden just being, you know, Bobby Bowden. You don't have drug problem unless you have drug testing. Now, well, we do have a guy named Jimbo. Jimbo. How the hell you a grown man still letting people call you Jimbo? Like if they call you Jimbo when nobody's around, that's one thing. South Carolina versus Clemson. This rivalry now features two of the most entertaining coaches in America. And one of them is named Dabo. Michigan versus Ohio State. Or, as I call it, the Big Ten Championship game. Because it ain't like I'm gonna watch the real one, Rivalry Week. Because it's more fun to hate your neighbors than it is to hate your family. There's X's, like when you look on the standings, you see an X by Ohio State and an X by Penn State for ineligible for a bowl. But not all X's are created equal, now are they? Like if you imagine Ohio State and Penn State in the holding cell, what are you in for? Some tattoos. What are you in for? It is alleged that there were some improprieties that took place over a course of no less than 14 years.